danger to myself. Hello and welcome. And if you watched my TBR, MBR video prior to watching this one, you will understand why my bookshelf looks like this. If not, you should go back and watch that video because there's a big explanation as to why it looks like that. And then I was just too lazy to move all of my equipment back over to the bookcase that I normally film in front of. So we're just gonna do a little batch film in front of this, and we'll all just get to look at my Christmas wrapped books. So, with that opening said, I am bringing you guys my August wrap up. Yes, because we're in September. That was August last month. And it's going to include books I read, some TV shows that I watched, and one video game that I played. So I'm going to change it up this time because last time I did the movies and stuff first. I'm actually going to do the book stuff first since I know everybody is here for the book stuff. And if you want to stick around and see what shows and video game I played, that will be at the end. So just stick around after the book stuff. Or if you want to see that first, you can just skip forward until you find it. So with that said, let's just go ahead and let's jump into what I read. Now, I read 5 books in total for the month of August. If you watch the MBR video, you will see that I have started school, so my reading has slowed down a little bit, but I was able to at least get 3 of them done in the beginning of the month, and then the other 2 came towards the end of the month when I felt like I could fit something in. But I did start 2 others, which I talk about in the MBR video, so I'm not going to talk about them here. But first up, I finished The Awakening Fire by Cassidy Faline. I really liked this one. I have a video review dedicated to it, but the big gist is I came out of this not knowing who I should be rooting for. I don't know. There's so many different reasons for why, and I'm just like, I want to know no, maybe, possibly, I don't know. And I love that feeling. I love just not knowing who I should be rooting for, and it's making me excited for the next book in the series because I really want to know. I really just want to know who I should be voting for, what's going to happen next, just so many things. And yeah, so if you want a more in-depth review about this, I will have it linked below in the description. Then after that, I read Memories of Blood and Shadow by Aaron S. Jones. Now, this ended up being a 3-star for me. It took me a week to read. I thought I was going to fall in love with it like everybody else. Unfortunately, I did not. I have a lot of reasons as to why. My biggest reason that really kind of like ruined the atmosphere of the book for me was this is supposed to be taking place in like a Middle Eastern kind of setting out in the deserts. And for the first like 200 pages, I was not getting that vibe. And it was at the point where I forgot that they were even in a desert setting until they went out into the desert. And I was like, oh, that's right. It's supposed to be like a Middle Eastern desert kind of vibey vibe. And I wasn't getting that. And the character descriptions don't do a lot of justice for letting you know that these are like person of color characters, which was another letdown for me. It was very ambiguous. It was just like, they have tan skin, but there wasn't really like any emphasis on facial structures and body builds and stuff, because if you take the time to like go out and look at people of different ethnic backgrounds and such, there are facial features that are more predominant in a different race as opposed to from someone who's like white, like myself. And you can use those to help build up the theme and the idea around your story and to really make it seem like you are writing a story that involves person of color characters. And I didn't really feel that way because it was so ambiguous. But the white characters that came in, like, it was very obvious, like, they were white characters. Like, there was a character who comes in a little bit later on who has a very Norwegian Viking kind of thing going on, and it's one of those things where like you can instantly tell just because of the amount of description that like went into creating him, whereas the actual main character and the people you're following, I was like, what do they look like? Like, what what they're tan, I guess. Maybe a little bit brown. I don't know. And that was kind of like the extent of the descriptions for the characters. And so it kind of ruined the immersion a little bit for me, because I didn't really feel like I was reading a story about that included person of color characters, even though it was supposed to be taking place in a setting that includes people of color. And I'm just like, where's the description? Like, how do I know? So that did kind of ruin it for me a little bit. I felt that it dragged. I felt like it severely dragged a lot and took a long time for certain things to happen. The beginning half of the book, it's so much training, just so much training. And then when you get to the later half, it's like all of these smaller events are happening back to back to back to back to back as fast as they can, because they're trying to make their way back to the kingdom to like get revenge. And it all just felt so like fast forwarded, because the beginning was so long and drawn out with the training aspect. But even then, I didn't really like enjoy the training aspect either. The main character, he was just he was all right. Tavar, he was all right. Like, he was one of those guys who was just kind of like, he became best friends with like everybody he came across, and would continue to try and be best friends with people. And normally I don't really mind the kind of guy who just wants to like be happy and excited and such, and to try and find the good in everything. But after all the things that he kept going through, I was like, why do you have this mindset still? Like, I don't understand how you have this mindset still. There is also a big giant event in the middle that I don't think hit properly, because normally, I'm a crier. I did not cry once in this book. And there was definitely a scene in the middle that was, in my opinion, supposed to be like the big pivotal, scene that was supposed to like get the reader and stuff, but I don't think it was pulled off well. I don't like how it happened, and it kind of was more of like, I saw it coming, because it was just the only thing that made sense. I was like, I know what you're going to do right now. I know exactly what you're going to do right now, and I'm not going to like it. And then they did exactly what I thought they were going to do, and I was like, I don't like this. I hate this. And it just really kind of like ruined like that pivotal moment in the story for me. And then everything after that, like I said, it was just like back to back to back to back events, just like felt like they were being rushed through. And then there's like a death later on in the series where I was like, it was one of those situations where once the character was introduced, you were like, they're gonna die. And then a page later, they died. And I was like, you were pointless. You were absolutely pointless. And I don't like that. I don't like that either. Because there was zero buildup around this character. There was zero buildup as to why they were brought in. They were just brought in for kill fodder, in my opinion. And I didn't like that. So yeah, and then ultimately the ending, I absolutely hated the ending. I hated it so much. It felt unsatisfying, and I didn't like the direction of it. It just, you follow this character through everything, and then the way it ends, you're like, really? That's what we're gonna do? Okay. And it just didn't work for me. I didn't like it. So it gets 3 stars because I can see why people like it. I don't feel like all of those really big pivotal scenes hit, and I really feel like the ending kind of did a disservice to Tavar's journey through the entire book. That's my personal opinion. It's still worth checking out if you want to, but yeah, for me, like, I don't know if there's going to be anything more after this. Right now, it's considered a standalone. It ends with the possibility that there could be another one, but I don't see myself picking it up, unfortunately. So after I read that, because like I said, it took me a week to get through that, and I took a few days off from reading, and after that I picked up A King's Bargain Legend of Tal Book 1 by J.D.L. Russell. So I loved this. I love the dynamic in this book between Tal and Garion. I'm pretty sure that's right. Garen. Okay. I love their dynamic. It's the mentor and, student trope. And I do like that trope. But it's more so seeing how Garen responds to like everything Tal has done and like all the things that like Garen learns and such, and like as he's going through, and so many times like Garen is just like, what? You did what? What? Like he's just like blown away so many times, and he's just like, you never said that to me, and he's like, you didn't ask, and he's like, well, I didn't know I needed to ask these things. You know, just like so much kind of like silly banter between a grown man and a teenager. Like it's just so fun. And you know, there's a mystery involved, and there's wizards. Like the wizard, when he came in, Aelin, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I was like, Scandalf. Like, I got Gandalf vibes from him immediately. Like, this has so many classic fantasy trope vibes, and it's just, it works so well, and it's so fun that when you read it, you're just like, it's such classic that you kind of can't help but, like, fall in love with it, and it just makes it for such an enjoyable ride. And then, because, like, there's elves, there's magic, there's, you know, demon spirits. The boy picks up something he shouldn't be picking up, which I was like, oh, that's like Wheel of Time like vibes, you know, like think of Matt. You know, I was like, there's just so many of these vibes and such. And, you know, the kid is constantly getting himself into trouble. And then, you know, there is like an insta-lovey thing between him and this girl he meets and such. And I'm like, oh, they're teenagers, whatever. Like, I'm going to let it slide or whatever. But the ending though, when Garen finds out some information regarding Tal and a certain person in Garen's life, I was like, what? And then the complete 180 twist between the relationship of these two characters that resulted in that reveal, I was like, no. I was devastated, okay? I was like, you cannot be serious right now. And so I immediately picked up the second book. I am still working my way through it, and I am loving it. And I will have some words about that one too, because I do like what's happening in it, although it's breaking my heart a little bit. But yes, this is great classic fantasy fun, and it's just, the characters are just really likable. So it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you've read Russell's latest series and you haven't read any of his earlier stuff. This one is definitely worth checking out. So then after that, I took like a little bit of a break from reading because I had started classes and such, and I picked up the classic The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I picked up the audiobook for it because it is only 1 hour long, you guys. The audiobook for The Legend of Sleepy Hollow is 1 hour long. So, and the only reason I picked it up was because I was on Instagram and I was scrolling and I came across a bunch of videos that were just Sleepy Hollow related. And I was just like, I want to read that because, like, I've seen the movies. And I was like, I want to read it because I've never read the book. So I picked up the audiobook because it was an hour long. This was the longest, most boring, drawn out audiobook I've ever listened to. This hour felt like an eternity, you guys. Like, I'm so sorry, but the story for The Legend of Sleepy Hollow is so boring. It's so many words with really no sustenance to it at all. And I mean that in the nicest way. Like, I really, really do. It was just not working. And I was just like, what is even happening? I have to say, when it comes to visual media and what we've done with the story, so much more interesting, so much more entertaining. They've built upon it so much more. It is just the basic, you know, Ichabod goes to the town and he's like, oh, like I'm a teacher, like I can get all the ladies I want, and you know, Brome's like, oh, you can't have that girl, the Katarina, like she's mine, how dare you? And you know, and then the whole pretending about the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman, and all that other stuff, and it's so many words for very little action. And there's not a lot of dialogue in it either, honestly. Like, most of the dialogue and action comes in like the last like 5%. Everything else is just description upon description upon description upon description of the world and the life of who Ichabod is and the place of Sleepy Hollow and the background of Ichabod and all these other characters. And I'm just like, where's the sustenance. So yeah, not my favorite. That's definitely one where I would pick every visual media, movie, TV show, everything like that. I would pick it over the book any day. Like, the book was just, it was just not happening, guys. So if you have read Sleepy Hollow and you love it, I'm very sorry. I don't think it was very good. And then after that, I finished out the month with the romance book Captain of the Guard by Anna Hackett. This is book 3 in the Galactic Kings series. It's a 4-part series. What is that called? A quintet? Is that right? I think so. But yeah, this is the 3rd book in the series. I gave it 3 stars. I wasn't like super like blown away by it or anything. I didn't like the character dynamics too much because they had the exact same personality, just one was a guy and one was a girl, and they were both very headstrong, abrasive, like, I'm the boss, you must listen to me kind of character personalities, and I don't like when the characters have the exact same personality because it's kind of boring to me. The action was really good in it. The ending was cringy like all of the other ones. They're just a little bit too cringy for me because it's like everyone making comments about them being a couple and such, and I'm like, not my thing. The plot, though, at least was there, and I thought the plot was interesting, and it didn't involve, sex slavery and stuff like that, which is so common in sci-fi romance for whatever reason. But yeah, I ended out the month with it. It was 3 stars. It was fine. It was nothing like fantastic and like blew my mind or whatever. So yeah, that is all of the books that I read that I completed in the month of September. So now let me tell you guys about the movies and shows that I watched, because I actually did do a lot of TV watching, which is, I go through phases where I will watch nothing for months on end, and then I will watch stuff, and then there's times when I just only watch Bob's Burgers. So, and I'm not watching that right now because I had to cancel my Hulu. So I discovered Tubi last month. Tubi, okay? I discovered it last month. It's been on my TV for ever, but it's the first time I've ever loaded it up because it's free, and like I had to cancel all of my subscription stuff. So I was like, I wanted to watch something. So I loaded up Tubi to see what they had. You guys. You guys. They have everything and anything you could possibly think of. Everything and anything. Like, I am in absolute heaven using Tubi. I don't even care that there's ads in the middle of it. And honestly, it's fine. I don't even care. But the selection is insane. Is the quality the greatest? No, but I don't care. I am enjoying it. So, to start out with, I started with doing a rewatch of Gem and the Holograms, which is a cartoon. A music cartoon. I watched it years ago and I loved it, and so I started doing a rewatch of it, and upon my rewatch, I realized there are so many problems with it. There's just so many problems with it. Mainly in terms of the Gem and the male character Rio, and that whole, like, there's a whole love triangle thing that goes on with it, and it's just, when you really watch it and pay attention, you're like, homegirl, you caused this. Like, this is your fault. Like, I can't even be mad at him because it's her fault. Like, I can be a little bit mad at him, but it's mainly her fault. So yeah, if you've ever seen that cartoon, then you at least know that, like, Gem becomes Jerica and stuff like that. Like, she's got 2 identities and whatnot. But yeah, I rewatched that one. Then after that, I started the Redwall cartoon. I did not even know they made a Redwall cartoon. And I have only actually read half of the first book. I ended up putting it aside because I wasn't enjoying it at the time, and it's something that I know I should enjoy because I love stories that have talking animals in them, where the entire cast is just animals that can talk. And I wasn't enjoying it at the time, so I set it aside. And then I came across the Redwall cartoon, and I was like, I didn't know this existed. I was like, this is amazing. So I watched it all 3 seasons, and I came out of it knowing and loving that the Badgers are the greatest characters in Redwall. The Constance the Badger is the best. This badger was ready to throw hands all the time. And she's like working in like a church setting, you know, the monks and stuff are always telling her, oh, you need to calm down, you can't be doing that, like, what do you have to, no violence. And she's like, you see this frying pan, you see that bird, I'm gonna hit him with it. And I'm just like, I love you. So it definitely allowed me to have like a better appreciation for Redwall in general, and it makes me excited to actually read the books because I can look forward to meeting more badgers and a bunch of the other characters too that appear. But it was so much fun. If you've never watched the cartoon, I recommend watching it. It's fun. After that, I then watched the movie Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro. And this is actually the first time I've ever watched this movie. It's been out for a very long time, and it's the first time I've ever watched it. And I loved it. I wasn't expecting the ending to be how it was. That was a little mind-blowing for me. I was like, oh, that's different. But I'm here for it. But my favorite thing about watching Del Toro's movies is his character design when it comes to creatures and monsters and such. I think he has the greatest imagination in the world. And that was pretty much the main reason why I was watching it, because I wanted to see all the creepy little creatures that he makes. But I definitely enjoyed watching it. And I believe I watched the Spanish version with subtitles because that's what Tubi had up, and which was fine because I read subtitles all the time. But I definitely enjoyed it. It was dark, it was creepy, it was weird, and I enjoyed it very, very much. Then I watched the fantasy movie Jack the Giant Slayer. This is an American movie, and it's one that apparently like completely like went past my radar because I love B-rated fantasy movies. They are like my jam, my go-to. And so I turned this one on, and as I'm watching it, I'm like, I know that guy. I know that actor. Who is that actor? Who is that? You guys know who it was? It was Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's who it was. It was freaking Obi-Wan Kenobi. I was like, that's who it is. I was like, I knew I seen your face somewhere. But yeah, I will have to say though, I did not like the ending of this movie. I was a little disappointed with it because it didn't make sense with the beginning of the storytelling. Because I was like, that doesn't make sense. Not at all to how you explained how that particular item works. He shouldn't have been able to use it. So yeah, it was a little interesting to say the least, but it was B-rated good funness, you know. Had a couple of good one-liners throughout it too. Then after that, I watched the Russian movie The Forbidden Empire. This movie was so weird. So it's another B-rated like fantasy movie. It's actually technically a remake of an earlier Russian movie called V, which is a folklore creature within the Russian folklore. She's a girl who died in a village and she like haunts the place now or whatever. And it involves some monks and everything. And I don't understand why it's called the Forbidden Empire, because it takes place in a remote village in like the middle of Russia somewhere. And it's not an empire, it's a village that are being tricked and lied to by a man of the church. And they all think that there's this creature going around killing the girls and whatnot. And it devolves into so much more and involves a certain priest doing things he should not be doing to people, to girls specifically, if you know what I mean. But the thing that was most interesting about it was when it started showing the demonic creatures. To this day, I still don't know if this guy just had a hallucination. I think he had like a giant hallucination like in the tavern, and he wasn't actually seeing demons. I think he was just like severely hallucinating. But the creatures that were created for this movie, they were wicked looking. Absolutely wicked. Like, I'm gonna tell you that right now, they were wicked looking. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was very different. And I had never heard of it, so I watched it, and then it was so funny because like a few days later on Tubi, I came across V. Like, it was, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, honestly. It's V-I-Y. V or Vi. It might be Vi. But I was like reading the synopsis and I was like, I just watched that titled something else, and then I did a little research, and that was when I found out that Ferdinand Empire is basically like a remake of that earlier movie. So I was like, oh, they have both. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm kind of tempted to watch that original one just to see what the difference was. But yeah, just another really weird little B-rated fantasy movie. And then after that one, I watched The Ashlad 2, In Search of the Golden Castle. This is a follow-up to In the Hall of the Mountain King, but this is a Norwegian movie. It's a Norwegian B-rated fantasy movie. I told you guys, B-rated fantasy sci-fi movies, they are my, oh my god, they're my jam, okay? Like, I love that. I'll eat them up. I love just seeing the sheer silliness of it, honestly. But this one definitely, the Ashlad series, they're so funny. They're unironically funny because, like, I don't know if they're aiming for them to be comedic or if they're just coming across comedic because of the way they film them, but I'm pretty sure they're aiming for a comedic side, because the silliest, dumbest things will happen to this main character, and you're just like, sir, because like he gets like these boots that can take him like a certain amount of feet with one step, and he just like, there's a whole scene where he just kind of like throws himself around in the forest because he doesn't know how to use them properly. And I'm like, sir, stop. You know, just like things like that. But him and the princess have to go on a little adventure to try and save her father and mother that have been poisoned and whatnot. And just comedy ensues, and just the silliest things happen. You know, and they meet like some very interesting fantasy type characters, you know, like a magical bard who like guards an entrance to a cave and whatnot, and trolls and all that other stuff, and a band of wild thieves. You know, so it's like, it's got all of like your little classic fantasy trope stuff, but they're fun, and they're executed in just the silliest way. And I thoroughly enjoy them. They say that there might be a third one at some point, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. I watched this one and the Russian one with English dubs on them, because that's how Tubi had them up. But honestly, even if they were in their original languages, I would have watched them with subtitles anyways, because foreign movies aren't a problem for me. I watch anything that seems interesting, so I don't really care where it comes from. As long as I know what's happening, I will watch it. And then after that, I rewatched the movie Crawl. And this is an older sci-fi movie. What year? Does it say what year this was? I don't think so. But 1983. Before I was born. That's right, because my mom took inspiration for my name from this movie. But yeah, I rewatched this one. It's one of my mom's favorites, and so over time it's become one of my favorites. And I was like, and I have it on DVD, as you guys can see, like I had to own it. But yeah, I rewatched this one. It's just a silly little sci-fi, very, very low budget kind of thing. But basically, if you haven't seen it, our main guy here has got to save Lyssa, Lyssa. As you can see where the inspiration for her name came from. But throughout the movie, it sounds like they say Alyssa throughout the movie. So I'm kind of wondering if that's why my mom named me Alyssa, because it sounds like they're saying Alyssa, but they're saying Lyssa. But my mom also calls me Lyssa, so like she takes the A off anyways. But anyways, he has to save her because she has been kidnapped by the big evil space like overlord dude who shows up and has a traveling castle. This is the special weapon that can help him, and along the way he meets a magician and a cyclops, a band of men who broke out of prison, and so many other characters. Fun little detail, this is one of Liam Neeson's earliest movies before he's not even one of the main characters. He's one of the side characters. But when you see him, you're like, oh my god, that's Liam Neeson. And it's the craziest thing, because I have seen this movie so many times, and it wasn't until this last watch through that I just did this month that I was like, that's Liam Neeson? What? But yeah, it's silly, it's fun. It's classic B-rated, fantasy, sci-fi. I love it. If you haven't seen it, it's worth watching just so you can like see just like the fun of it. Like it's fun, you know. It doesn't have anything like that's gonna like pull at your heartstrings too much. I mean, what happens with a Cyclops is a little sad, you know, but overall it's good, it's fun, I enjoy it. It's one of my favorites. Oh, and also the old man, what happens with him is pretty sad too, because who it connects to, and just because one of the things that I do like about this is that the name Alyssa is like a sacred name. It's a special sacred name, Lessa, and it's only passed down to like one other person has ever had the name besides this princess. So it's got this cool, fun little, you know, lore and stuff involved in it as well. But it's classic B-rated sci-fi movie fun that I just eat up. And then last but not least, the only other thing that I did was I tried out the video game Sea of Stars. I tried it out on my Switch. It is done in that 8-bit style, very much like the earlier Zelda games, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I only tried the demo because I don't have the money for the full game right now. But I did try the demo and I really liked the demo, so I'm hoping that hopefully soonish I'll be able to get a hold of the whole game. But definitely if you like those like 8-bit Zelda, like very early on Zelda games and such, it's definitely worth checking out. It's just from the demo, I'm like, this is fantastic. So yeah, looking forward to hopefully being able to get a hold of that. And then last but not least, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to share these with you guys now in this video. I know it's long enough as it is, but why not? Because we're already here and they came in today. So I got two books in, and I'm pretty sure what both of them are. So I will open up this one first, hopefully. See, I know how to be careful when I use something that's not a blade to open my boxes. Because I'm a danger to myself, guys. I'm a danger to myself. I've been very overstimulated lately, so if that last few videos seem a bit more chaotic than normal, that's why. So this is the broken binding book that just came in. So it's The Heroes. You know, the book I was supposed to receive back in February? Yeah, it's finally here. The back says, "It is easy to forget how much you have when your eyes are always fixed on what you have not." I mean, that's honestly kind of true, though. That's actually really good. That's kind of... Don't call me out like that. So, here we go. Yeah, we were supposed to receive this back in February. Like, I mean, I'm happy that it's here. Not gonna lie. Like, I'm happy that it's here, but also at the same time, I'm so annoyed that it took so long. Because, like... the actual excitement for it really isn't what it could be for me, because it took so long. And then I'm still waiting on the third one, you know, March's book. So, yeah. But here it is. It looks very nice. And then, honestly, the sprayed edges they're very nice. I do have to admit that. I do, like I said, I like the Great Levelers sprayed edges so much more than I liked, the previous series that they did for Abercrombie, which I don't remember what it's called. I haven't read it. It's whatever. But let's see. I don't know. No, there's nothing on that one on the back side, but I don't know about the front. Let's see. Let's discover it together. It's a giant sword. It's a big old giant sword, guys. Look at it. So fun. But yeah, I mean, it's nice that it's finally here. I would be way more excited if it had showed up when it was supposed to have shown up, but it's been so many months that like all of the excitement has disappeared. So yeah, and then this one, I'm excited for this one, which is why I'm like, I want to show you guys all of this stuff right now. Plus I don't know, I don't really want to film an unboxing thing for like two things, and plus it's something fun to look at the end, I guess. I have a lot of editing to do for this video. So I got this on PANGO books, because I sold a bunch of stuff on PANGO, and then this one popped up and it's one that I've been looking for. So I went ahead and used the money from one of the books that I sold to snag this one. Well, they get an A+ in protection, okay? Like, they protected this book very well. They get 5 stars. 5 stars. But it's Patricia. It's Patricia. Patricia McKillop, Odd Magic in hardback. As some of you, if you've been watching long enough, look at this. I love these wraparound covers. Like, this is what book covers don't do enough of today. They don't do enough wraparound covers because this is gorgeous. Like, look at that whole picture. Like, it tells a whole freaking story. Like, they don't do that enough nowadays. But if you have been following long enough, you will know that she has become my most recent obsession, and it is my goal to own every single one of her books, particularly in the hardback with these particular covers, because she has some of the most gorgeous covers. And at this point, I think I may be only missing two books altogether. So I'm not sure on that. Don't 100% believe me, but I think it's only two. But yes, it's here, and it is in fantastic shape. Like he said it was, the seller and stuff, and you know, I'm always a little I don't know, but yeah, this one is in just fantastic condition, and I'm so happy to finally have it because this has been one of the harder ones to come across. So yay, another Patricia. So that is everything. That is all that I have to talk about in regards to August, and then these two books that just showed up here in September because I wanted to, and it's what I wanted, so it's what I did. So if you read any of these, if you watched any of those movies, if anything, and you know, if any of that stuff sounded interesting to you guys, drop a comment below, like, subscribe, all of those great things, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.